All right, hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am John Filipek, the sales director on the federal space here at SHI International Corp. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ben Joseph, the Chief Data Officer at the United States Postal Service, Office of the Inspector General. Ben, how are you doing today?
Good, John. Good to be here and talking to you all about something that's very near and dear to me, data management, analytics, you name anything data, that's something that gets me riled up.
How are you guys able to, put certain things in place that allow you to not have to manually go and inspect the data? I feel like that's why people shy away from it so often, is because sitting there having to dig through the spreadsheets and really having to make heads or tails of some of the numbers, right? You either trust your numbers guy, right, historically,
Yeah,
or it's kept in a separate side of the house essentially for the longest time. And what I love about the CDO position, it's kind of breaking that barrier down, right? It's allowing data to be leveraged by all of the different people that would be overseeing, let's just say, sales and back house and front,
yes.
all of those different pieces of it. So on your end, how do you get from, okay, I have a great data collection process, right? I've built that pipeline, to your point. That's really great. Now, how do I leverage that pipeline to make some of the automation kind of go for me?
So the pipeline is the most important piece, right? That's your foundational piece. And then comes, how do you ensure that, your stakeholders can easily consume it? Okay, and this is where some of the other efficiencies come in. Like, so when you start talking about one class of users in our case, like auditors, right? So auditors, they are very nitpicky when it comes to numbers, and they want to know where it came from, how did you transform it, how did you cleanse it, what are all the different buckets that it went through, right? So they're very nitpicky, and we want to make sure that that entire lineage is clearly shown. So how do you make sure that has happened? You would use tools. Okay, you have governance tools that are mature nowadays. You would use tools and you would plug it into your entire pipeline so that it is actually getting some insights that will inform your audit users. And the other part is that you also have automation tools, meaning custom automation tools that are built within a pipeline, which provides you more fidelity towards, okay, how the data has been prepared and how it is, how it has been brought to them. And a lot of times, there are two classes of, checks and balances that we got to make, right? One is your operational checks and balances, which is nothing but, here is what I received from my source. Here is what I got in my destination. Okay, this is one side of the fence. And the other part is that, okay, the users, they start looking at data in a certain cone. Okay, like another separate lens. So how do you make sure that some of those things can also be automated so they don't need to kind of do a lot of that on their end? So you also bring in some of those checks and balances. These are like simple business rules. Okay, like how many mail pieces came in on a particular day? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Do we statistically see that there is like a big bump, or is there a big, a dip? That could be a flag. Okay, and maybe that's because we missed a feed or something operationally happened that we did not catch. If that's the case, then your data becomes completely unreliable or usable, right? So those are the things that we also try to implement within that entire automation space so that it kind of improves efficiency for the end user to kind of, they can rely on the data, they can take it and they can, use it for the audit purpose or investigation purposes. So.
I love that. So then a follow-up question to, that piece of it then is how often, because obviously it's a growing living organism, right? This pipeline that we're talking about and being able to keep it kind of up and running and doing what you need to do from an organization standpoint. So how often are you kind of inspecting those checks and balances, right? Because of course, flagging something in real time where you see a dip or you see a spike, of course, you're going to gravitate towards that. You're going to go remediate the problem and move on and hopefully be better for it, right? That's the obvious part, but everything's humming along just great. Is it you let it go for a month, you let it go for 2 months, you let it go for 6 weeks? Yeah, exactly. So what's that kind of fine line of that check and the balance, and how often should you kind of be testing against it essentially?
So it really depends on the schedules of your data pipelines in a way. So I'm wearing a little bit of my tech hat here. Basically, what that means is if you have a daily feed, we need folks who are looking at it on a daily basis. Again, when I say visually inspect it, as and when the alerts come in, right? There should be somebody kind of validating it both from an operational perspective and also from a business perspective. Because if there are any bigger flags on the business front, right? Like I said, the statistical average example, we want to make sure business me kind of come and validates and says that, yep, this is not good. We want to make sure that this is fixed. So there is a conversation that happens between us, the tech folks and the business me's, and we come to a decision that, yes, we need to fix it. So can you kind of defer your activities to a later time? So that entire thing gets into like another process stream defense. Okay, so so to answer your question, I mean, we can't just create some automation. We can't just create a bunch of metrics and just, it's not like fire and forget. We have to make sure that we keep our eyes on it. That's where that big data governance lens comes in. We want to make sure that we are on top of it too. It's an equally important function, the data operations piece of it. Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's great, right? It's some similar to just keep in mind, right? If you're having a daily feed, you got to have daily inspection. It's as simple as that, right? Because you're only as good as the last piece of, clean data that kind of walks through the pipeline, if that makes sense, right? The quicker you can catch it, the better off you're going to be, certainly long term.
Exactly. The delivery side of the fence has to be separated out, and then the data operation side, right? They should function independently. So their entire focus should be on, okay, how is data coming in? Do we get everything? And what type of metrics are we looking at? So that data operations scene and making sure that the business is also in the conversation, that is also equally important.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I think to your point, right, the business is going to drive, the needs of the data as well. But the data should also hopefully highlight some of the places where you can improve business processes based on, again, being able to say, hey, let's inspect over here and see if we can do something a little bit better in the field, because we do have either a bottleneck or a hiccup of some sort. So they got to play nicely, obviously.
Absolutely. So looking at operation metrics, right? I mean, how's our operations working? Is there room to kind of improve our data operations, or even some of the things, the business operations that they perform, right? I mean, are they picking the right facilities? Are they going and doing the right actions there? So there is also data that can be used in order to kind of gain intelligence or insights on that front too.
Well, thank you, Ben, CDO of the USPS OIG, for joining me on today's call. It's been an absolute pleasure. Love to always hear the fresh perspective and the way that data is being used, in the federal government today, especially as somebody, sitting here trying to support you from the technology side. Please, everybody there in the audience, feel free to visit cdomagazine.tech for any additional interviews that you may want to pull down, as content is provided on a daily basis there. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you, Ben. It's been great.